I think what I want it to be is about an experience of light and colour. I want it to be quite an intimate experience as well that allows people to kind of just reflect. I've never actually worked in this way before, worked with a Islamic art collection. So this is my first time doing this, and I'm really, really excited. Normally, the way I work on something that's more site-specific, it's really important to actually physically see the space. I was really chuffed when Laura contacted me and I was asked to think about this project. And I feel like it's a beautiful way of acknowledging that connection that I have with Islamic art and architecture. The way I work on any projects is to kind of go back to the basics, to start kind of almost at the beginning. I wanted some connection to colour, and I wanted some connection to geometry and how that can then be interrupted. And so that disruption for me means that kind of imperfection. And so the geometry I'm using for this proposal is based on the perimeter of the window. So there's no kind of mathematical rule or anything. It's just simple kind of division process, basically. And then what I decided to do was start with just one colour to understand how the colour will be affected by light. And so one of the first model I made was just looking at red. That was a common colour that I found in Islamic art, and it's layering that red and what happens. And then as I'm layering, what I then wanted to allow that window to do was to connect with the exterior. And that's why you see there's a shape that's kind of where there's no colour, and it's almost like another window to the outside, if you like. And then slowly I started adding one or two colour, and so the third model has a few more colours, and it just got more and more exciting. The more colours I started layering, there was much more interaction. The colours started changing, and and especially in terms of the light as well, it was really exciting. When I first came to the UK, I had no English. And I remember my father telling us about snow, but I've never experienced snow. I remember coming out of the aeroplane and there being a thick layer of snow at that time. It was 1985, I was 8 years old, and it was all white, and it was a bright sunny day. And I remember again the intensity of light. And it's amazing how these kind of things stick in your mind, and it's just being incredibly beautiful. Everything was white. I grew up in the countryside, close to Sylhet in Bangladesh, and the house was surrounded by lots of rice fields and water. So I had quite amazing time experiencing colour and light. So I used to spend a lot of time staring at rice fields and water and, looking at the ripple effects and looking at the light, changing. I just used to love it. I loved seeing that change. I used to love seeing the wind kind of blowing the rice, it's so beautiful. I guess when I'm physically working on the work, I think about my own kind of physicality in relationship to the work, and thus kind of thinking about the viewer as well, and how they might respond, how they might react to the work or move around in the space. And I think, we do that anyway, but we're not as conscious maybe, and I feel like sometimes when people look at my work, it makes them a bit more aware of their surrounding. I've been thinking about more and more how the landscape is still visible, the architecture is still visible, what's going on in the roof is visible. For me, they're kind of these subtle things that I'm allowing to kind of seep into the work. You're not quite removed, you're not really allowed to be in this state where you completely forget where you are, because the clouds are moving or the trees are moving, something is moving out there that kind of brings you back to kind of reality.